Hello everyone and welcome back to Miss Key's classroom. My name is Rachel and today I've got my comfy clothes on, I've got my cup of tea ready to go because today I am taking you through my planning for term 1 and how I get ready for the school year, because the start of the school year here in Australia is fast approaching. It's just a couple of weeks away. So in this video I'll be going through my planning process and sharing a few tips and tricks with you as well, so that you can have a super successful start to term 1 because you'll all be planned and ready to go. So for those of you who don't know, I am a high school teacher. I teach history, English, geography, and this year I'm actually teaching pastoral care as well. So this video will have more of a high school focus and planning for multiple different subjects and different classes rather than a primary school focus. And so if you are a primary school teacher, please keep watching because there'll definitely be lots in this video for you and lots of things that you'll be able to apply to your primary school context as well. In today's video, you'll see that I will plan out for my semester. I'll plan out term 1 pretty in depth and then plan term 2 pretty loosely, just because as we all know, things always change, the best laid plans go astray, and so I'll just be mainly focusing on term 1 today and then a little bit of term 2. So as a high school teacher, I will have multiple different classes this year. I've mainly got year 8s and 1 year 12 class as well. So today I'll be planning for all of those. And so the first step that we are going to start with is to write down everything that I need to cover for all of my different classes. I'm a full-time teacher, so I've got 5 classes that I'll need to work out what I'm doing for. Luckily for me, I've taught most of these subjects before, so I will be sort of going off of what I've taught previously, but to start off with, I'll definitely be writing down all the units that I need to cover or all the topics that I need to cover in semester 1, so term 1 and term 2. So as you can see, I've written out all of my subjects and then I've also written down the units or topics that I'm going to be covering in term 1 and term 2. So this is where the loosely planning of term 2 comes in, but that's literally all I'm going to do. I'm just going to write down what topics I'll cover in term 2 and that's it. That's all the planning I'll do. I'm just going to focus on term 1 now. With my year 8 classes, both for HASS and for English, I aim for 2 units or topics approximately per term. That's a good way to think about it and to divide up your work. If you think about focusing on 2 things per term. If you try and focus on too much, you can try and cram too much in. You don't get as much sort of in-depth learning as you would if you spread it out a bit more. Alternatively, if you sort of only focused on 1 topic per term, you wouldn't be able to fit everything in and the kids would get bored because you'd just be doing the same thing over and over again. Okay, so now I'm actually going to change my focus from subject planning and move over to planning my term overview in regards to school events and pupil free days or public holidays, anything like that. The reason I do this before I get down to planning units or planning individual lessons is because it helps me to work out how much time I've actually got in my term and how many lessons or weeks I'll actually end up having with my students. Because here in South Australia, term 1 is technically 11 weeks long. However, by the time you factor in sports day and year 8 camp and all those sorts of things, you're left with a lot less time than you initially thought. So I go ahead and I find the school's calendar. My school puts ours up online and it just has all the events that are happening in the school. And so I write down all of the ones that apply to me in my term overview planner. The term overview planners that I'm using, I made 2 years ago now, and they're linked down in my description bar for this video, and you can follow that link and grab yours for yourself. They're totally free. They're probably the most useful resource I've ever created. So if you're interested, feel free to grab your own on there. But if you'd prefer, you can also use something else, just like a traditional calendar if you like to flip things through, or maybe you just want to write things down in your diary, or if you want to write things down in your phone calendar, it's completely up to you. I just like using these term overview planners because it allows me to see everything on one page, and I can immediately look at it and know what's coming up this week or in the next couple of weeks, and it's just super easy to access. I stick mine up above my desk and can just look at it whenever I need to know what's coming up this week or maybe in the next couple of weeks. So as you can see, I've written down all the events or the meetings or days that apply to me. So you can see here that I've written down Year 8 camp, I've written down Year 8 immunisations because I'm a Year 8 home group teacher, so those are the ones that apply for me. I've also written down when I've got staff meetings or faculty meetings, and also any public holidays or pupil free days, because they're really useful to note as well, because you don't want to plan for a lesson and then realise you don't even have school that day. So now that I've written out all those events on my term overview planner, I'm going to switch back to planning for my subjects. And the way I do this is I create a subject outline for each of my subjects, which either covers one term or two terms, so like a semester. This time I'm just going to do term 1 for each of my subjects. So I like to think of a subject outline as like the big picture of a subject. It tells you the essential information you need to know about it, and you can send it out to students or parents if you need, but it doesn't go into too much detail about individual lessons or anything like that. It just shows what units you're going to be doing, when you're going to be doing them, and when assignments are due. So I do the subject overview before I even go into unit plans or lesson plans, because I find this the easiest way to work out how many lessons I actually need to plan for. So on each of my subject overviews, I go ahead and I fill in each of those school events that apply to those lessons. So obviously you don't always have every lesson every day depending on what school you're at. So I just write down the ones that apply to me or apply to that subject. That then gives me a really good picture of how many lessons I have to plan for and how I can distribute the 2 units that I'm covering evenly between the rest of the weeks or the rest of the lessons that I've got left. So as I work through my subject outline for each subject, I write down the due dates that I'm sort of decided on for each of the assignments. So these due dates don't necessarily have to be set in stone. They can definitely change as you sort of work through your other subject outlines, but I write them down as I go, just so that I can make sure that there's not too many clashes, or that I don't have multiple drafts coming in one day, or that I haven't accidentally planned to have something due a day the students aren't even at school or something like that. And here is my subject outline for my Year 8 English class. The school events are highlighted in purple, and then the assignment due dates are highlighted in yellow with red writing to make them all easy to see. So once I've done my subject outline for each of my subjects, I go ahead and I fill in those due dates on my term overview planner. As you can see, the first one I write down, I already make a mistake, but that happens. And so I just fill them in on the corresponding days. And then after I've written them all down, I go ahead and I highlight them in each color, in a different color for each class, just to make things easy to find when I'm in a bit of a rush, if I need to know when Year 8 English has something due, or Year 12 English or something like that. So as you can probably tell, week 3 Friday is looking a little bit hectic, but that's okay. Even though there's 3 assignments coming in on that day, none of them are drafts, which means that those ones that are coming in just need to be marked. And that doesn't have to be done straight away. So it doesn't really matter that those 3 are coming in on the same day. If they were 3 drafts, it would be a very different story. So now that you have done your term overview and you've done your subject outlines for each individual subject, it's time to start unit planning and then planning individual lessons. So like I said before, the subject outline is like the big picture, then you work down into unit plans, and then you work down into individual lessons. Because I've been teaching for a little while now, I don't make individual lesson plans anymore. I sort of just plan a day or 2 in advance and then go from there, and I just write down notes if I need them. But if you are someone who likes to use individual lesson plans and write them all out in a nice little table, I have got a resource for that as well. Again, totally free. It's linked down in my description bar for this video, so check that one out. It's sort of like a how-to guide for unit planning and lesson planning. I made it after I finished uni because I thought, you know what, I wish I had this when I was at uni, and so hopefully it can help some of you as well. So if you're interested in that, check that one out. Okay, so now for the majority, I am all planned for term 1 2022. I've got everything ready to go. I've got my subject outlines, which I'm ready to upload to our online portal so students and parents can access them. And then I've got my term overview ready to pin up above my desk so that I can easily see that whenever I need to. While all of these things are great and you can plan to your heart's content, I think the best thing and the most important thing to remember about planning is that you need to be flexible as well. Any experienced teachers out there would be able to tell you that things will change throughout your term, week to week, even lesson to lesson, and you'll plan for all of these things and then maybe they'll change, or you'll think of a different idea that you want to try with your students. And so my advice would be to plan as much as you like, but be prepared for it to change as well. Maybe you plan for a unit to go for 3 weeks, but then in the throes of things, you end up only having 2 weeks to do it. If that happens to you and you're like, oh my God, what do I do? I haven't been able to cover everything that I need to. My advice would be to work out what the most essential thing is that you want the students to have learnt by the end of that unit, and focus on that. So if you find you're running out of time, go through the content that you've got planned and work out, okay, what do the students really need to know by the end of this unit or to be successful in the assignment, and focus on that. Then if you end up with other time, work out, okay, what's the second most important thing and the third most important thing, and focus on those in order. Because when you're at school, you might plan for an amazing lesson and then someone will come in and say, hey, we've got assembly today. Sorry, you don't have a lesson anymore. And so being prepared, but also being flexible when things change is really important when it comes to planning. My term overview looks great now and everything's nicely planned out, but I'm sure by the end of term 1, lots of those dates will have changed, and that's okay. As long as I know sort of where I need to be at, that's all that matters. All right, so there we have it. I am all planned and ready to go for term 1, 2022. I feel a lot better now that I've got most things set in motion and I feel ready for the start of the term in a couple of weeks. If you yourself are currently planning for the upcoming school year or maybe upcoming term, I hope this video has provided you with some useful tips that you can apply to have a really smooth term or smooth semester. So thank you all for joining me for this video today. Watch this space because I will be back for more soon. But for now, I hope you all have a wonderful day and I will talk to you all very, very soon. Bye.